No matter how prepared you think you are, no one is ever really prepared when the unthinkable strikes. A disastrous quake rocks Japan, forcing everyone to fear an even greater natural disaster: tsunami. Otsuchi in northeastern Japan is a town of 15,000. It has a proud fishing tradition going back for centuries. American filmmaker Brian Barnes is here filming a documentary.
I was in Otsuchi, Japan, monitoring the fishermen. I was videotaping and doing some still photography.
On March 11th, 2011, an earthquake of epic magnitude suddenly shakes the harbor. An estimated 8.9 on the Richter scale, about 76 miles southeast. The shaking is so intense, Barnes is unable to steady his camera, but his instinct tells him to keep filming.
I've got a lot of storm chasing experience and other experience with natural disasters like hurricanes and things, and so it's just kind of an instinctive ability of mine that when things start happening, I want to document what's going on.
Tsunami, yeah, we're leaving. Yeah, we're leaving.
The locals know all too well what an earthquake of this magnitude means. The only course of action is to run.
Being right on the coast, that's, the first immediate thought was we've got to get out of this area because there was probably more than likely a big chance that there was going to be a tsunami.
All the employees are leaving work because of the earthquake, and we just got told by the police there is going to be a tsunami.
The entire town is scrambling for safety. No one knows how long they have to escape.
It's like in a movie.
While we were driving out, we were seeing just hundreds and hundreds of people coming out of these buildings. I guess that was one of the thoughts that were on my mind, was that does this town have a plan to protect all these people?
How quick do tsunamis come?
Depends on how far out the epicenter was. If it was close, it'll be here in moments.
The scene is surreal. But this town has been hit with tsunamis before. The best bet is to head to a nearby hill. Now, every second counts. But Barnes and his crew are unfamiliar with the area. They struggle to find the right way toward higher ground.
Come on, somebody help me here.
Where are you headed?
We gotta go to the hill. We gotta go across the bridge, I guess. What if the bridge fell down?
Turn left, hopefully not.
During this whole earthquake, I'm actually grabbing a camera and trying to focus and document what's happening. I'm thinking 10 steps ahead as well about what the next thing is that I'm going to do to protect life and property.
Make the left before the overpass.
Just before.
There's a place where you can get up. Vertical shelter is really what you want to focus on, and getting up as high as you possibly can is the key to surviving.
Emergency personnel arrive on the hill to organize evacuees. Now all they can do is wait and watch.
I'd say that's it coming in.
There was a white line of just like a capping across the top of the ocean that we knew was a wave that was coming in. From where we were sitting, we couldn't really tell how high the wave was or how far out in the ocean it was.
As they watch the approaching wave from the hill, Barnes suddenly realizes another disaster is taking place behind them.
Scott, is that all underwater over there?
Amazingly, the quake has actually raised the coastline 6 feet, causing the Otsuchi River to flood the town.
I turned my head and noticed that the buildings around the harbor area were already flooded. And we didn't really know what was going on.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, everything's flooded.
Oh, goodness.
How did that happen?
They watch in awe. They'd been on the harbor only minutes before. Now, it is completely submerged.
The water was probably up 2 or 3 stories at that point.
I can't believe it's all underwater. That's crazy.
Here it comes!
Then, the true disaster arrives, a tsunami of epic magnitude.
It wasn't exactly what we had expected. We expected a giant wave. When the water came in, it compressed between the hills, and it was just the ocean itself was just this fast, gradual rise. And it was coming up around the hills, that we were on. We really thought at that point that even it was going to overtake the road that we were standing on. Everything that you have probably ever done in your life goes through your head in probably 10 seconds or less. It's just like your whole life literally flashes before your eyes. At that point, you know, we pretty much kind of figured that, you know, that was the end of everything.
Barnes has no idea where to aim his camera. The huge surge crushes the town all around him. Large ships topple onto shore like driftwood.
And you see buildings that are, you know, 7, 8 stories high, literally just crumbling to the ground, and the rooftops were floating in the water.
It is total devastation. Nothing in the tsunami's path can resist the awesome power of the rising ocean. But amid the pounding seawater, there is yet another threat: fire.
As the buildings were basically being ripped apart from their foundations, it was tearing apart the natural gas lines that were in the area. So that ignited a lot of fires.
Is this like a warehouse floating down over there?
I realized at that point more than ever that what I was documenting was the last minutes of a town.
That's a big wave.
It's fighting against the outrush.
As dramatically as the tsunami overwhelmed the town, it now begins to recede. The view from the high road shows almost nothing left standing. As mountains of debris are swept back out to sea, the town and the entire harbor are completely drained. The tiny island in the middle of the harbor is now more than 60 feet above the water.
And I don't know how deep that harbor is, but deep enough to allow pretty good ships to come in and out of it. At one point, it was so dry that you could have literally just walked across the harbor. You know, houses were floating by us, cars were floating by us. It was just like something that just came in and you know, with a push of the arm, it just completely bulldozed an entire town in mere seconds.
This is our road.
Roads and bridges are washed out. There is almost no way back to civilization. Sunset is fast approaching. Barnes and his crew have no choice but to camp on the safety of the hill overnight.
It was the middle of the night, it was pitch black because, you know, anything that was man-made infrastructure completely had been wiped out.
We found a woman who was floating in the debris in the harbor, and she's too far out to get a rope to her. So we commandeered a fire truck. The only other person that's up here besides us is a Japanese lady who I don't know really where she came from, but she seems to be in all good health and everything, and she doesn't speak any English, so we're trying to direct her to talk to the boats out there.
American filmmaker Brian Barnes is living through a nightmare. He and his film crew are in the Japanese coastal town of Otsuchi when a devastating earthquake triggers a tsunami. The wave is of epic proportions. Disaster has struck the Japanese coastline. The over 30-foot waves hit Notori first. The force of the tsunami overtakes the town. Ominous black water rips homes from their foundations and carries them creeping and burning across the countryside. The next morning, back in Otsuchi, Barnes and his film crew must navigate through a disaster zone to start the long trek out.
We spent most of the day just trying to navigate the debris and to stay away from the fires. Now, everywhere that you looked, there was just everything, you know, boards and rooftops and cars and so much destruction. It was really hard to kind of keep your emotions together to get out of there.
So I just walked over to the other side of the tsunami wall to see what was left of the town, Otsuchi, and it doesn't appear that there's really very much. There's cars on the hills, a lot of smoke from a lot of fires, just a lot of damage.
The death toll is staggering. Close to 1,500 people, a tenth of the town's population, are either washed out to sea or drowned under crumbled buildings. The town is completely unrecognizable.
About 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we spent the whole day trying to get out of the tsunami area. We took shelter up on a hill, and everything between that hill and several miles to anything that even resembles civilization at this point was completely destroyed. The bridges were washed out, and roads were completely overturned. And it looks like literally like a bomb has just gone off around here. This whole area is gonna probably take years to rebuild. The town is completely destroyed.
I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for the ocean, but when you see the ocean literally rise up, 100 plus feet and come right at you,
Here it comes!
it gives you a completely new view of just how quickly the planet that we live on can kill you.
It is just the tip of the iceberg in a country rocked by a catastrophic quake, horrifying tsunami, and ongoing nuclear disaster. The road to recovery will be long.
I don't know if the town of Atsuchi is going to recover easily in any short period of time, because there's just so much damage, and people seem to be scared to rebuild. And I mean, who can blame them?
In the end, it takes 9 hours for Barnes and his crew to reach the highway and a way back home.
There are a lot of different images and stuff that play out in my head every night. I don't think I've actually had a night's sleep without thinking about things.
Here it comes!